The Rose of Meat is a short indie game by a fairly unknown developer, Mr. Pink, which made its debut on the DreadX collection The Hunt, alongside several other short indie title games by different developers. Before I had ever heard of DreadX, I first learned about Golden Light, which I believe to be a true successor to Rose of Meat. Both of these games caught my attention a while back, and I had no idea their connection to the same developer. Once I made the distinction, I knew Mr. Pink was a dev I had to check out, and I'm so thankful I have. Rose of Meat is difficult to describe. It's very weird, but so are many other games. These are video games we're talking about. They get weird sometimes. Very weird. Even AAA games for average consumers.
I know what you're thinking. Is that an otter on my head? Wear it and you too can ride the river rapids without fear. Unless you're afraid of looking too sexy.
But this one really had piqued my interest. It was so imaginative. It's horror.
Are you listening to me?
It's horrible. I don't know if you would say it looked like fun, but it is so creatively bizarre, at least something I needed to try for myself and experience. So I put this one on my game list. After having played Golden Light first, and realizing how much fun it was, I knew Rose of Meat was next to play. In much the same way Golden Light sucked me in, I wondered if Rose of Meat would do so in a similar way. This developer reminded me of Miyazaki's Dark Souls. Its obtuse item storytelling, the residential odd characters, and moody aesthetic world building had enticed me, much the same way. These games are vastly different, so there's no need to make further comparisons, but there is some magical similarities. In fact, I wasn't wrong.
Hello, me, Mr. Pink, Daniel, and my business indie game dev partner called Mr. Shlong. We were inspired by many things such as Shadow Tower series, also King's Field, Dark Souls.
Naturally, I gravitate toward these titles. I gave Golden Light a shot first with its overwhelmingly positive reviews and the accessibility of it. I thought it would be a great place to start. It turns out it didn't connect with me right away. It was weirder than I'd expected, hard to understand, and left me feeling anxious, confused. Everything was just a bit chaotic. But in the same vein, I also had a very similar experience with Dark Souls. The very first time I ever played it, I didn't like it that much. Yeah, I actually didn't like Dark Souls that much. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. As days went on, I started to think about it more and more. And this doesn't happen with every game. There are plenty of games I dislike, but for whatever assortment of reasons, they just don't stay with me. On rare occasion, they do, and if I find myself going back to them, I've discovered something very genuine and worth my time. Much like Dark Souls, Golden Light, in my experience, was that game. And I'm so glad I pushed through to better understand the design and language, and now I have a whole other perspective about it. I thought about it more and more after I turned the game off. I was determined. If I couldn't beat it, I would join it. The burn to return had me back quickly, and I pressed on like a true scout. Little by little, I started to put more together where the world didn't seem so overwhelming, if that makes sense. The sensory overload was easier to handle. I like this game. The more I played it, Golden Light is actually very fun. But what about Rose of Meat? If anyone watching this has played both, then you know they even share some, not all, characters and world design. In a quick dive, let's go over some of the game attributes and highlights, and not so great goods. First of all, this game isn't easily accessible. I think that's quite obvious and won't be for most gamers, so let's just get that all out of the way. I would even suggest hardcore gamers might see this as an experience rather than a game to play for fun. And that's fine. There are many games of this nature. I've played through this a few times, and if you know where to go and what to do and how the mechanics work, you could probably beat this in around 30 minutes. But that being said, unlike Golden Light, which has very good design mechanics, Rose, on the other hand, does not. It demands some patience, and usually by trial and error. Or, worst case scenario, you just cave in and watch someone's Let's Play on YouTube. There's plenty of argument for that too, but watching someone else play it is not so enriching of an experience as it deserves. Rose of Meat is stylized to look like an older era game, but the colors and contrast are quite beautiful at times. And other things like the eye hills or whatever those things are and the shadows create a jarring drab disconnect. There are graphical pop-ins and quite literally assets they're scripted to, like the houses, trash, street lamps, appendages of meat. So it's disorienting in that way because sometimes you're not sure if it's scripted or not. I think true fans of this game will argue it's part of the charm, even if it's unintentional, right? I can side with that. Overall, I like the look, but it does have that jarring flat contrast with Mama Rose, a character late in the game, and the hills of eyeballs. It just seems so flat against all the other areas that are high contrast and colorful. Game design, it works here, but I don't particularly like it. Game mechanics, it's straightforward. If you can get the irony of what a weapon is and how health works here in conjunction to the weapon, yeah, wrap your mind around that. So you have two items. You have a pistol and Rose's favorite shoe, appropriately titled Lady Shoe. Just see Lady Shoe as a glorified spellcaster. It produces a large floating meat appendage, all intact with an eye or two, holding a classic explosive barrel. Your health meter is the pair of googly eyes that you see on the bottom of your screen. If you take damage, the eyes turn redder and roll around more sickly. To get health, you use Lady Shoe, cast some meat, and go and have a conversation with it. It's a tedious step in all situations, but especially grueling when you're in a fight and low on health. The game wants you to exhaust all dialogue options. Generally, this is the only way to progress at all. Then you have to solve the macabre riddles to complete the objective, usually in the form of a fetch quest. But unlike other games, whatever is asked for you to fetch, you will always use it or it provides you to complete the story. It's rarely a tedious mechanic, except finding the wood in the forest. Yeah, it doesn't have to make sense. Let me try to explain this. It's just the trees aren't actually made out of wood, so how do you get the wood then?
That's a hilarious question you're probably asking.
And one that comes in the form of a humanoid woman that is so silhouetted by the forest backdrop, you probably might run right past her the first time you play through it and never even realize she was there. But if you have seen her, a quick handy little explosive barrel will reveal a secret, and I'll leave it at that. The story is, as you can imagine, nonsensical. It's not deep. I don't think there's much of an allegory to any of it either. Basically, you just need to escape the island. Our goal is to help a few of the islanders so they can build us a meat boat and we can return home. It is what it is, more or less a vehicle for the game world and design. That's all it needs to be. Heck, it's trying hard enough to just be serviceable. I get it. I get Rose, I get Gun, the fisherman, and I even understand Mama Rose. But I'm not so sure about Dyke. The one thing that keeps coming to mind is Fram from Dark Souls. Dyke is another random oddball that keeps popping up in front of you the closer you get to the end. It provides little in the way of dialogue, offering a loose hint that is already obvious to the player at that point. Maybe I missed something. I appreciate the nod, but why does it appear so often, serving virtually no purpose? The music is unsettling, sometimes humorous, and often anxiety-inducing. Mr. Pink has a thing for lo-fi low pitch, be it voice or instruments. You'll definitely know that if you have played or watched any of our videos on Golden Light. If you haven't, check them out. We'll leave a link. It works very well, but it's difficult to tolerate, even for a short game. I think he did a better job in Golden Light, but in here, it's not my favorite. My favorite music, though, was probably the low-pitched guitar after you meet the fisherman. And the meat man you get the pistol from once he ascends into the sky. Those are pretty cool tracks. The sound design is effective at getting under your skin, and that's exactly what it needed to do. It's effective. I told Bathory this was more of an experience rather than anything, but honestly, it's more than that.
It's a novel experience.
One that is a complete claustrophobic nightmare, and you would need to play it yourself to really get it. So this is a difficult game to review because I believe some people actually really like it. I've seen reviews out there. While others wouldn't touch it with a 10-inch meat stick, all I can say is, overall, I like it. I think it has an interesting world concept. The design, I don't think is thoroughly worked out, but it's unlike anything I've ever played or experienced. It's not the mechanics are completely rewritten, but it's the way they are creatively implemented and used in the game itself. How the design subverts your expectations and uses the absurdity to build upon something very unique. This is an original game. I like that. Golden Light is a well-designed game, and a significantly better gaming experience. It's actually fun. But being Rose was his first commercial attempt, I think it shows strong bones. Would I recommend Rose of Meat? Perhaps. If you like the aesthetic of this at all, and want to support the game developer.
Mr. Pink.
But if you want a game that's well-designed, thought out, and has a ton of replay value and is actually fun, I would go for Golden Light. Again, you would still need to appreciate Mr. Pink's aesthetics and keep an open mind. Bogie out.